The whole town's batting about Cincinnati. What a team, what a team, what a team. Each man and lady from 1 to 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.
Hello, Reds fans, and welcome to another edition of We Love Our Team. Today we have as our guest our first MLB umpire, John Hirschbeck. John was an American League umpire from 1984 through 1999. In 2000, the leagues merged, and John did American and National League games. He retired in 2016 after he served as the crew chief in the World Series between the Cubs and the Indians. John umpired in the All-Star Game 3 times, the Division Series 10 times, the American League Championship Series 5 times, the World Series 5 times, acting as crew chief in the latter 3 times. John, hey, welcome to We Love Our Team, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jack. It's an honor. Looking forward to this.
Hey, John, it's great to have a fellow umpire on the show. You know, I just do high school baseball, nothing like the MLB. And we'll talk about your umpiring career in a bit.
Sure.
But can you tell our listeners and viewers about your journey that led you to your career as an MLB umpire?
Well, the funny thing is, I was never any good at baseball. Basketball, okay, decent, but baseball, I hadn't played since I was 12 years old. And I was a senior in high school and needed money to go to my prom. And I grew up in Connecticut, small town. And a friend said, hey, we need guys to umpire Little League games. Would you be available for $5 a game? Big money back in 1972. And I said, sure, I'll try it. And I really liked it. I really just enjoyed myself. I was doing it 7 days a week. Whenever they had games, I would take them. And the next year at college, I took the test to do high school ball and under. And again, my love of it just kept growing. And then during college, I thought, well, how do guys ever get to do it at that level, watching a big league game? And that's when I found out that there was an umpiring school in Florida. And so in 76, I went to umpiring school. And here I am.
That's later. Funny. That's funny, John, because when I was in high school, I was a senior I graduated in 75. So I guess in the fall of 74, I told my parents, I'm not going to college. I'm going to go to this umpiring school down in Florida. Because I did the same thing. I just did Little League baseball and stuff. I think it was like $5, like you said. I loved it. And they looked at me like, hey, son, you're not doing that.
Is that right?
But hell, we could have been in the same class together.
That's right.
But, oh, well.
Randy couldn't get a date to the prom, so he wasn't doing it, for the money. It was,
that was my first and only date, that prom, so it didn't go anywhere.
That wasn't Denise, was it?
No. I was in Connecticut. Denise was back here in Ohio, where we live now.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope it was worth all the effort you put into it, man. So.
I've had a great life. I thank God every day, for what I did for 41 years, 7 in the minor leagues and 34 in the big leagues. And everything I have in life is because of it. And so, like I said, I thank God every day.
So who was your team growing up? Did you have a favorite baseball team?
Not really. My dad, bless his heart, was a diehard Yankees fan. And, so out of respect, I guess I kind of liked the Yankees. But once I got into baseball, I said, now, Dad, with me now, because I had them all through the minor leagues at the different levels I was at, had Yankee minor league teams. And I said, now, you can't, when you're doing this, you can't be cheering for the Yankees. You're on my side now. And he was always, always great about it. Even when I would take him down to Yankee Stadium. And one of the big thrills when I was doing replay towards the end of my career, I was in New York and called Joe Torre, and my dad and I went over to see him and visit him. And Joe just, you're saying, rolled out the red carpet. Big thrill for my father.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Well, he had a lot of good teams to root for over the years.
We sure did.
Okay, John, let's talk about your umpiring experience, and not specific games yet or anything like that, or some of the highlights. What about some of your favorite cities to umpire in, excluding Cleveland?
Well, I could come right back at you and say Pittsburgh, because either way, I was an hour and 10 minutes from home or an hour from home. But I love being in the Midwest. I used to try and bid my schedule. You always had to go all over the country. But there were 19 crews the years I was a crew chief, and I was third in seniority. So there are only two guys ahead of me that pick schedules ahead of me, and they were both West Coast guys. So I try to always pick Midwest, East predominantly. Just like I said, you still had to go all over. But I love the Midwest. Just it's like home to me. And of course, Cincinnati was great because it's only 5 hours from Youngstown. And many, many times I drove down or for a weekend series or drove home after Sunday's game.
Okay. Hey, so John, you learn something new every day. I just always assumed that MLB scheduled you guys and you rotated like you would be in Seattle as much as you're in San Francisco or as much as you're in Baltimore. But you're telling us that it's basically the crew chiefs. You get to kind of pick your schedule.
Well, there's 19 schedules that they put out, and then you get to look at them for a week or whatever. And I would sit with or talk on the phone with my three partners I was going to be with that year, and who I pretty much got to choose. And then we just decide, looking at a lot of things, vacation time, what time of the year that fell. Really, as my children got older, the last thing I would almost look at were the cities, other than I preferred Midwest, East Coast. But you're pretty much, there were seasons when I never got to Cleveland. There were seasons I never got to Pittsburgh. So it's there's a lot of other factors that go into it. It's a big thing when you pick your schedule. If you have that much seniority, because that determines your summer and when you get home and that kind of thing.
I think I heard you say on another podcast with Sean Casey, but that you get 4 weeks off during the umpires get 4 weeks off during the season. Is that right?
That's correct. 4 1-week vacations during the season.
And does your whole crew, is it by crew? So your whole crew's on vacation at the same time, or
3 are with the crew and 1 rotates. So while I'm gone, they'll have another umpire come in and take my place. And so over a 4-week span, we would all go on our single weeks.
Gotcha. Okay. And you kept the same crew you just said that your crew was your crew the entire season?
Pretty much 90% of the time. Of course, if there's injuries and things like that. And then if you have a good 2-man, they might, if a crew chief goes down somewhere, they might say, hey, we need so-and-so to go run this crew until the crew chief gets back. So, but pretty much we were together.
Did you ever have any injuries like when you were umpiring?
Yeah, unfortunately, quite a few. From foul balls and the mask and everything, I had to end up getting a titanium plate put in my neck. I've had back surgery. I've had knee surgery. A lot of concussions. When they started, around 05 or 04, they started keeping track of concussions and with the protocol, like they do in the NFL. And I had a lot of concussions. In 16, my last season, I went to a specialist in Pittsburgh at UPMC, and I said, when I retire after this year, am I going to be drooling on myself? He said, no, John, you're going to be just fine. Don't worry. So worked out all right.
Well, hey, this is a Reds-centric podcast. So I'm wondering what you can say about umpiring in Cincinnati, things like your favorite restaurants to go to, maybe some of your favorite dealings with people like Lou Piniella or Dusty Baker, et cetera.
Well, first of all, I started to say earlier, I loved going to Cincinnati. I loved working at the ballpark. I normally always stayed at the Hyatt, stayed at a couple different hotels, but stayed at the Hyatt. You guys can help me out. Back in the day, I don't think there's many day games on Saturday anymore, but what's the barbecue place along the river that's fantastic?
Montgomery Inn.
Montgomery Inn, yeah. And now you can buy their barbecue sauce anywhere, but back then, when I was leaving on Sunday, I'd go there Saturday and get a couple bottles to take back home with me. But Lou Piniella, Dusty was always a class act, just a great guy, easy to work for, and he respected hustle, doing your job, caring about it. And the same with Lou. Believe it or not, I had Lou as a player when I first came to the big leagues. Billy Martin was managing, and I had Lou as a player, and then all the years as a manager. And I can say legitimately, I never had an argument with Lou. Other guys on my crew did. And a funny story, I'll bring this up now. I was working in Seattle once, and the umpire who's at first base kicked the call, and this was before replay. So Lou comes out, and he's going crazy. No one, even his coaches, no one could get between him, and he's going after CB Buckner. I wasn't going to say the name, and I did.
CB.
So I
Marty Brenneman's favorite umpire.
Well, so now
CB Buckner.
He throws his hat, then he goes and gets it, throws it again. He picks up first base and throws that a second time. It's in short right field. No one could get between him. I mean, he's going off. So finally, I wiggle my way in there, and I said, "Look at me." And he stopped for a split second. And I said, "Do you know what your wife's going to do to you after this game when she sees the way you're acting on TV?" He went, "Holy crap, you're right." And he turned around and walked off the field. Just like that. So we come in after the game, and the clubhouse guy still had the game on TV, and they're interviewing him at his desk, and they said, "What did Hirschbeck say to you that got you to stop like that right away?" He said he told me what a jerk I was being, that my wife was going to kill me when I got home. True story. True story.
That's great.
Do they have psychology courses in umpiring school?
You know what? It's like anything in life. I used to tell people, learning how to handle people in situations and having that rapport, that takes time, because credibility, respect, all those things that go into any job in life. But when you get that, there's guys that you can have an argument with. Lou Piniella is a good example. He'd come out and he goes, "You see me last night? What a jerk I was," when he'd bring the lineup cards out to home plate. It's just like the old school mentality. You don't carry grudges in baseball. And, I did this. I haven't said this to many people, but it just came to me. If I threw someone out of a game, I would make it a point to say hi to them the next day. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Just to say like, "Hey, that was yesterday. You did what you had to do. I did what I had to do, but today's a new day. There's no reason to hold a grudge."
So, I know some people that say they that's something they miss about baseball, is those interactions between the managers and the umpires, because it's just not really a feature now. Every once in a while, but just with replay and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Do you think the game is lacking because we don't get to see that anymore?
I do. And when people would ask me, like, what's the difference between a AAA umpire and a big league umpire? I always said how you handle people and how you handle situations. Well, nowadays, umpires don't have to handle people, and they don't have to handle situations. They pick up the phone and go to New York, and then they make a powwow around the guy's table, and then they come out with the decision. I like that. I'll keep saying this during this interview, but thank God my career was when it was, and I'm so blessed to have been in baseball all my life. And, I liked it then. I'm glad I got out when I did, and the timing was just perfect.
Yeah. We had Ken Griffey Jr.'s agent, Brian Goldberg, on the podcast earlier, and he mentioned that, I did not know this, but Junior's was in a Progressive insurance commercial, and the shtick in the commercial was that Junior has an umpire living next door to him that comes over and criticizes how he
Jim Joyce.
That's what he told me. We did not know that.
Yeah.
And that was Junior set that up for Jim Joyce.
Jim, yeah. That was
So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm throwing this at you kind of cold, but if I were commissioner of baseball, and they have not called me yet, I keep waiting for my phone to ring, but maybe Sunday. I think one of the first things I'd do, would be to make it official that Galarraga, the Detroit pitcher, I would award him a perfect game, I think. And I don't know how you feel. And now, having said that, I thought I think Galarraga is probably better known for not getting the perfect game than he would have if he had gotten the perfect game. I also think it was really cool, the interaction between him and Jim Joyce afterwards. I thought both of them were just so classy.
Believe me, that was very, very classy and so well done by both of them as human beings to one another. And, it reminds me, Scotty Scheffler, I love golf and I like to watch it and everything. And he was doing an interview, and I thought it was just phenomenal the way he talked about, you win something and you enjoy it for a few moments. And then after that's done, you go on to the next city or next thing, and nobody. It's like my friends here. They don't say, "Oh, I want to be John's friend. He worked 5 World Series." They don't give a damn. They like you because of you. And Galarraga, you know what? In time, and you look back, isn't it kind of cool to say, like, look at it. It is what it is, but you can say, you know what? I had no hitter, and the umpire missed a call, and then look what came out of all this after. And it's that no hitter probably will mean a lot more in the history of baseball than most others.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Hey, John, you mentioned the replay booth. That's frustrating for viewers sometime because they'll show a few shots on the big screen at the ballpark and it looks like the guy's out, and then the New York says otherwise.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us like how that system works? Like how many views do you have as opposed to what people are seeing up on the scoreboard? It's driving them crazy because it looks like they're safe. Then New York comes back and says they're out because of probably the foot was like slightly off the base or something like that.
Yeah, it's now don't forget anybody listening to this that's in the game now. I haven't been there for 9 years. This is my 9th year out. Mm-hmm. They've even changed the location of replay, but it's the most high-tech, modern equipment you could ever imagine. Back then, we would sit at a booth and have 2 games on big screens up in front of us, and you have a computer tech next to you. And I used to be reading a book or playing with my iPad or something. Because they'd say game number 4. If I knew what numbers I had, just look up, or I tell the kid, like, okay, if anything happens, nudge me. I didn't sit and watch both games, for 4 hours. So, and then as soon as that happens, then they start bringing up several different replays. You can say, show me this or show me the first base angle. And there's any possible don't forget, both teams have TV cameras. Anything that's there, and MLB has their own, that you can say, bring this up. And then a lot of times, based on that umpire's experience, there's a head person in that room that's there all the time. And then guys will gather around. You won't say anything. It's like the old thing in umpiring. You don't say anything unless you're asked. But there were times I would turn around and I'd say, hey, what do you guys think? Or you see anything I'm not saying? Nope. And then I say, okay, and then make the ruling. So.
And talk to us a little bit about, when I listened to the Sean Casey podcast, you were talking about pre-replay, a double play ball, and maybe you give the second baseman or shortstop a little leeway. Mm-hmm. And that was a kind of an unwritten rule. As long as they made the turn nice, okay, bang. If they were slightly off the base, still out. Now with replay, you can't do that anymore.
Now, see,
can you talk about that at all?
Yes. One thing to what you just said, if the big thing about that, the way I came up and learned for my first 17 years, let's say, until 2000 when lawyers took over the game, if the throw was accurate, okay, nobody, no offense, Jack, sorry, I forgot who's here.
Well, Randy's one too, but that's okay, no problem.
But, if the third baseman made a good throw to the second baseman covering the bag for a double play, it's chest high where it should be, then just, the guy is still 4 feet out from the bag. Just turn, make your catch, turn and throw to first. You don't want the guy to stay there and leave his legs in there and get hurt. And now if the throw was off, if the second baseman had to reach up for it or reach down for it, then you sure as heck better touch the bag. That's the difference. And even a steal play, if the ball was there and the glove was down, and the guy slid into it, you're out. Look, I'll tell you a quick story. One time when replay first started, I was working second base in Anaheim, and a young umpire at the time, John Tumpane, who's now got a lot of experience, he's working the plate. So a ball gets away from the catcher, and Albert Pujols kind of trots down. It's Albert Pujols running. He kind of trots down to second base and gives a half-hearted slide into the bag and pops up. And I barely even made the safe call. That's how obvious the play was. And Houston was the visiting team. They said, we want to challenge it. So as I'm going by home plate to go back and listen on the camera, I go by John and I mumble. I said, if they overturn this play, I will kiss your you-know-what right here at home plate. And I go back, and what happened was when he slid in and he kind of stood up from the bag, his foot came off like that much, and they could see it on replay. And so they change it. I go walking past John. He goes, "Hey, Chief, you want to do it now or later?"
That's great.
Well, that is an interesting thing, and I do think that business of your foot comes off the bag for that little bit. That's probably one of the ones I hate the most.
Oh, it's too technical, Jack. They just I mean, it's so technical now. I mean, and I've seen replay make mistakes. I've seen replay.
Yeah.
I don't watch much baseball, but those kind of things will come up later, like on if you're looking at Facebook or something. But we're humans. Humans make mistakes.
Yeah. I would be totally okay if they got rid of the replay rule in baseball. Honestly, I mean, it just seems silly to me. I mean, maybe for the postseason, but you're talking about a game in April, 7th inning of 5-1, and whether the first baseman got his foot on the bag or not. Just who cares? I mean, just play on.
Or how about this? I'll give you another example. How about this? The game is 15-0, and you're in the 8th inning. So they bring a second baseman in to just finish up, so you don't have to use pitchers. Okay, they still do that nowadays, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and yet that umpire, like when that happened in the old days, you wouldn't be like, okay, he has to throw a strike. The other guy should know, like, okay, swing the bat, whatever, get a home run, get a ground ball, and let's get out of here. They're giving up. It's over. And yet that umpire is trying to make that perfect little itsy-bitsy strike zone. Like, that's ridiculous. Not the way the game was meant, in my eyes.
No, I totally agree.
Well, and every pitch now, I mean, part of the problem is how money has driven the sport so much that every pitch is important for the pitcher and the batter, right?
Even in spring training. That's what we used to have games like when the Reds were in Sarasota, to where my whole career was in the Sarasota area for spring training. I mean, we used to go out there and we'd have our golf clothes in the car and figure we'll be out of here at 2:15, 2:20, and we'd change into our golf stuff and go play almost 18 holes before dark. And Griffey, those guys, it was getting in shape, seeing the ball. And nowadays, every pitch, you look at the times of spring training, they're as long as the regular season games, because every pitch they throw, every at bat they take means something as far as money.
Mm-hmm. And that's the lawyer's fault. You've made that very clear.
I did. I hope I've said that.
Hey, was there any truth? Like when we were growing up, and it was American League, National League, and the American League guys wore those big, fat chest protectors, and the sort of the common wisdom was that the AL umpires would call the high strike, but not so much the low strike, and the reverse. Was there any truth to that?
Not really, and I'll explain why to you. When I went to umpiring school in '76, they would take about 4 days to teach the balloon, because it was that antiquated, just so you knew how to hold it or use it, that kind of thing. All the rest was inside protector. When I got to the big leagues in '83, there were two people, George Maloney and Jerry Newdecker, who used the balloon. By '84, they have both retired. So it hasn't been around since 1984. Right. Everyone's been using the inside protector. But I think the merging of both leagues made it better for everybody in every way around, for umpires, for players, for the league itself, because all that stuff about, like, my first World Series in '95, there were 3 American League umpires and 3 National League umpires. That was Cleveland, Atlanta. And I remember from being younger and hearing, like, okay, well, tomorrow night we have a National League umpire behind the plate, so he'll be calling this strike zone or that. And it was all just announcers announcing to be heard. Nothing true. It was whether you're American League, National League, it was how consistent you were. You call that same pitch in the 9th inning that you call in the 1st inning, and that's what they were looking for. But as far as people perception, it was a great thing to do, and still is, I think.
Hey, speaking of which, John, I'm still a little bit, I toss and turn a little bit about the way you call balls and strikes in that game in 2010 in the playoffs. This is a
Here's the thing.
red-centric
I called them like I
podcast.
always did. I had a big strike
You
zone.
know,
Pitchers loved me.
that Roy Halladay no-hitter against the Reds. I mean, my gosh, could you have missed any more pitches in that game?
How about, hey, Jack, what do you think you do right now if I hit click and I went off the air? He'd go,
I know.
"How'd I do
Yeah.
again?"
Too bad you can't click him out. You're out of here. You're out of here, Frank.
Here's
right.
here's the thing. It wasn't till the fifth inning that I realized, okay, it was like in the middle of the fifth, I happened to look up and I went, holy shit, he's done, they don't have any hits. And I said, okay, just remember, keep doing what you're doing. Don't change anything. Keep the same strike zone the rest of the game. And I feel like I did, because I told the young umpires, when things get exciting in a stadium and the volume goes up, you have to make your internal volume go down. You can't rise with the fans and the excitement of the game and what's going on. And a perfect example is the next day I went to the right field line and we kind of met the second base between innings, second base umpire, first base umpire, and me. And I'm like, holy crap, is it loud in here? Was it like this last night? And they go, John, it was louder than this last night. And I never knew. You're in a zone, believe me. You concentrate, you're in a zone.
And you feel some kind of pressure when you know there's a no-hitter going on,
Oh, yeah,
right?
well, like I said, I kept telling myself, stay down, lower the volume, just keep doing what you're doing, pitch by pitch, out by out, because chances are he's not going to get it, but don't let you, and I told myself, don't let you, John, be a factor.
Well, that's interesting because until I listened to you on Casey's podcast, I didn't think about the last out. I mean, I had remembered that Brandon Phillips hit a little dribbler, ran up the line. But tell us a little bit about that. Tell our listeners, because this was news to me. I didn't think about it.
It was the last, as you say, the last out of the game, and he was completely in fair territory, out of the 45-foot lane. And right away, I'm thinking like, holy cow, he's not where he should be. And the catcher had to go out towards the mound, not that far though, and throw it where he didn't have an angle. And he actually didn't lob it, but got it over his head, and whoever the first baseman was reached up and caught it. And I was ready to call him out for being out of the baseline. And when that happened, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I didn't have to do it and end the game that way.
Right.
You know, again,
yeah, but when you
I don't want to be a factor. I want to be the unknown thing there. People don't pay money to see John Hirschbeck. So right. I want to go in and get out of town just that same way. Don't even know I'm there.
But our listeners, if you're curious about that, pull it up on YouTube. John's right. I mean, he was he was in fair.
Well, I would have to call it, Jack.
Whole way.
Called it, yeah, and I was ready to. But they made the out, so thank God.
Hey, one of your other games you called that people ought to be aware of, but like you say, they probably didn't realize who the home plate umpire was when Bonds broke Hank Aaron's record. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
You know, we ESPN was there for every game, and you know those are the kind of things you're like, please let them get this done so they stop, because they would come in with balls that were numbered and everything. And you have to keep track kind of how the balls go into the game. So they're sequential, so they know the exact ball and what that was when he hits it, so they can get the original back or try to. It was just, and they're in there, and it's just a lot of hoopla, you know, and we don't need that. Just let me go work the game. And so we kind of wanted to get over with. And I literally, that at bat, my mind, I said, he is going to hit a home run. Because if you, again, were to go back and look at that at bat, he fouled off a bunch of pitches. I mean, it was either that or just strike out, but I really had a feeling he was going to hit it just because it was a phenomenal at-bat. Just phenomenal. And the better one, I'll bring this up, Mariano Rivera. I was in New York, and the all-time save record, I was behind the plate for. And again, who would think, okay, it's going to be your day to have the plate, and the end of the game comes ninth inning, and you're going to be in a save situation. And that was me there too.
Wow. Yeah.
Did you ever don't even think it's going to happen? So it just happens, and you're done, and you go. You know, I went in after the holiday game, and a lot of the suits and ties were in there because of playoff game, and they said that's unbelievable. I said, yeah, you know, that's my first no hitter in all these years in the game that I've ever had behind the plate. I've been on the field for quite a few. But they said, no, but that's the second time in the history of baseball that someone's had a no-hitter, and the other one was like the year I was born, I think. So, I mean, you just find out about those things after. A lot of times I'd finish the World Series and I'd be up in a tree stand hunting deer a few days later when, you have quiet time to stop and think about, all the excitement. My family's there and they're having a good time, enjoying it and everything, the festivities, but I'm working, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, and you had the role in the, speaking of, your very last game was Game 7, 2016.
Yeah.
And you were crew chief. And, a lot of Indians fans complain about the rain delay.
Yeah.
And say, hey, if there would not have been a rain delay, the Cubs probably would not have come back. We would have been world champions. And yet you had to make a difficult call to have a very short rain delay, which was unbelievably short.
17 minutes, shortest in the history of baseball. It's almost impossible to get a tarp on and off in that amount of time. But here's why I did and believe me, if my son Michael was alive, Michael and Terry Francona, like Ron Gardenhire, they were tight. They were on speed dial with each other. So if Michael was still alive and he died in 14, he would have been bat boying in that World Series. So I wanted the Indians as much as anybody, but of course I wanted more for Cleveland for, the idea, but I can't do anything to change that fact. And so the head groundskeeper has been a good friend of mine. We've worked in many, many situations in the 17 years I was a crew chief. And he came out onto the field and he said, John, here's the deal. The rain's going to come in X amount of minutes. It was a few. And he said, when it comes, it's going to come really hard. He said, if we don't get the tarp on early, we're going to lose the field. We will totally lose the field. I said, okay. So I told both managers, I said, so you don't think I'm crazy. I'm going to put the tarp on quick. But once this rain comes, it's going to be a downpour and then we can get it off. And we had next front was in Toledo. So we had about 45, 50 minutes until that hit us again. And so many things go into it at this time. You're thinking like, you don't want a shortstop to slip and fall or throw it in the stands, and the World Series is lost that way. But on the other hand, you don't want to come back the next day to finish the World Series. So that's why I started getting gray hair. So, no, but at the time, you're just doing it. You're thinking through all these different scenarios and things. So it starts raining. We get it on. I went downstairs, our room, told Joe Torre what was going on. And, I don't know if they were waiting for the TV to come back from commercials or what, but I really didn't care. I said, the minute it stops, they pulled the tarp, they rolled it off. The only thing I want to make sure was that the Cleveland pitcher was ready to go. And I went out there, I stood on the mound, and I said, listen, I will not start this game until you tell me you're absolutely ready to start. He said, Hershey, I'm as good as I'm ever going to be. I said, okay, here we go. And we started. So that's why I did it. And it started raining. We were still in the locker room, hadn't gotten all our equipment off. In the locker room, it started pouring, and I didn't get home till 5 o'clock the next day, 5:30 the next morning. It was still raining.
Wow.
So very lucky.
You were celebrating your last game
we
for
were.
a few
My
hours?
wife, the girls were there. All the umpires, their families went to a little bar downtown in Cleveland, and I was real careful. I knew I had to drive home, but it was just be fun, being with everybody, and knowing that I was never going to do it again.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
Was that one of those things where you thought about a few days later? Did it really hit you in the moment, or was it on reflection that it really?
The next day. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I got the best piece of fan mail that I ever got in my life that I saved to this day. And I'll share it with you guys. A couple weeks later, it was a month later probably, I got mail from someone that lived in Illinois, a young husband and wife, and they said, John, we're so happy our Cubs won. And thank you so much for and they put it right in there, the 17-minute rain delay. And we had nothing to do. And here's the result of that 17 minutes. And they sent me a sonogram of a new baby. Is that something?
Really?
Yep. Isn't that something?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We just watched replays of old games during the rain delays. So, I don't know. It's like a better thing. And so, who was the chattiest first baseman you ever umpired?
Definitely Sean Casey. I mean, I love Sean, and we've had some golf outings and things up here. He's always a part of everything that I do in the community. I mean, even in spring training, we would talk the whole game. The thing people always say, like, when hitters come up, do they say anything? A catcher talk to you? I said, yeah, there's catchers that like to hunt and fish or whatever, and we're talking like a lot during the game, but you do have to be quiet when the hitter comes up there.
Yeah,
and they don't. There's no talking. There's no other than if they say hi or hi to the catcher, and that's it. Then it's business. But when I was at first base, I mean, yeah, especially in spring training, or even during the season, we talked the whole game.
Were some catchers just better to umpire behind than others, either with pitch framing or how they catch the ball or whatever?
Here's the difference. They didn't catch the ball; they received it. Nowadays, they just catch the ball. They don't, and this framing stuff. If guys never did that, that's a new thing in the last 10 years. Because if somebody pulled the glove, and he said, "Where was that?" I'd say, "Why'd you move your glove? Just catch it where it's at. If it's a strike, why'd you pull your glove over?" And they have a statistic for that now. Again, screwed up baseball. But the best I ever worked behind was Bob Boone. You were when you knew he was catching, you didn't care who was pitching because he was that good a receiver. Another one was Carlton Fisk. I'm dating myself. Sal Butera. I don't know if he's managing now. I know he got into the minor leagues. He could be in the big leagues for all I know. One time, I was in Oakland, day game. I can still see it. And after about the third inning, I said, "You know who you remind me of?" He goes, "Who?" I said, "The way you catch the ball. You remind me of Bob Boone." And he stood up and he turned around at me. He goes, "John, that's who taught me." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." But Bob Boone was the best.
Well, John, what you mentioned that receiving and catching. What's the difference? I'm not so sure I understand that.
Okay. When you play catch, you just put your glove up and you stop, you stop the ball. Receiving is having those, we call them soft hands. You can catch a ball. You don't have to jerk your glove. You can turn your glove and receive it in different positions. And that's how they did it. Does that make sense to you? It's not just knocking a ball down. Nowadays, it's like, okay, let me throw 100 miles an hour and, and you're back there, you pray the catcher knocks it down or catches it, gets a glove on it. In the day, most catchers just receive the ball. They were receivers. They finessed it. You don't have to take your glove and pull it to make me know it's a strike. Catch it and hold it where it was.
I saw a clip from some little league game that the catcher jumps up, catches a ball, this will fly over his head, and jerks it back down like this. That was the ultimate phrase.
If I would have said strike.
I'm curious, there's one of my favorite stories is about Jim Valvano. He had a ref, and he's getting mad at the ref, and so the ref is standing by him during a free throw, and Valvano says to the ref, "Hey, can you give me a technical for what I'm thinking?" And the ref says, "No, I can't give you a technical for what you're thinking." And Valvano says, "It's good. I think you suck." And the ref just thought it was so funny, he just let it go.
What?
I'm just curious.
I would too.
Any time an umpire said something like that to you, or
I would too. Especially, I mean, there's got to be some humor, especially if the guy was, like I said, was like a Lou Piniella, or I could go on with a lot of people because there were many, 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 many more great guys, good people. So yeah, for most people, unless you knew the guy was just a no good, and those kind of managers, I can't even think I could name one. So I would have let it go too. And so that's pretty good. I like that.
Did any manager ever give you the business? Any good lines from a manager that you kind of just had to smile at?
I'll tell you a cute story. Again, about my son, Michael. I told you he was really close with Ron Gardenhire. So I took him to Minnesota a few times. He'd say, "Bye, Dad." And he'd go over to Twins clubhouse and he'd go in Gardy's office. And, that's where he would shower, get cleaned up, then come back over at the end of the game to our room. And he'd stay over there and eat and everything. And one time I'm at second base and there's a runner on first. So I'm in the middle of the infield. And third base umpire goes out on a short fly ball to judge whether it's a catch or no catch. And whichever way it went against the Twins. So Gardenhire comes out and he comes by me and he goes, John, I'm going to have to get run here. I said, go see him. I'm not running you. And so he goes out and he argues and argues and argues. And he comes back. He goes, he won't run me. I said, well, that's your problem. He goes, you got to do it. I said, I'm not running you. I said, you know what my son would say to me? And he goes, there's 42,000 people here today. TV saw it. And my players, most of all, saw it. I have to get run. I said, well, I'm not doing it. And we're out in the middle of the field, people screaming and everything. And finally he goes, okay, how about this? And he says something like, okay, all right. So I run him. And he goes, thank you very much. I said, so now what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going right to my office, and I'm going to call your son, Michael, and tell him just what the hell you did to me. And he gives me a smirk and turns around and leaves the field.
Hey, John, again, Cincinnati angle here. Terry Francona, he was the manager in 2016 up in Cleveland.
Yep.
And, he had some health problems and he came out of retirement and joined us here. And I think Cincinnati has kind of fallen in love with Terry Francona.
How could they not?
Yeah. Talk about Tito.
He is one of my most respected and most friends with in my 42 years in the game. Me and my family, my daughters, my wife, we love him to death. We really do. He's just a good man. He's a class act. And I could see why players love him just because of the kind of person he is. And quick story, a couple of years ago, we have a Magical Michael Foundation that we do things in Northeast Ohio. We work with Akron Children's Hospital, kids that have physical disabilities and underprivileged children. And we were having our outing, and it was during, I think it was the 15 season. It was because Michael was no longer alive. And he came here to Youngstown and along with Jim Tomei, and at the dinner that night, he ended up buying a beautiful bracelet that was being auctioned off for a lot of money. And when they brought it over to him and he sat down, he was sitting next to my wife, Denise, and he just passed it over and he said, here, this is for you, Denise. So just,
wow.
Again, my son Michael and he would talk all the time. Cute story. One time, Michael and his buddies, they're all debating like what time the Indians were playing on Saturday. And they're going like, it's 4, it's 1, it's a night game. So they see Michael over on the phone in the corner, and he comes back. He said, it's a 105 game. And they go, how did you know? He goes, I just called Terry.
Get the best source.
Wow.
I love it.
Oh, my gosh.
So I've said to some people over the years that, it's harder to make it to the majors as an umpire than as a player, just on the numbers game. But you and your brother Mark both managed in the major leagues, and I was just curious: were there any other brother combinations out there that you know?
Tim Welke was first, and Bill Welke, who just retired 2 years ago or so, who's still a supervisor now. They were another pair of brothers.
Yeah,
and there's been some fathers and sons.
Oh, there's a great book called As They See Him, I think, about umpiring. Just talking about the difficult, it's just rough, man. I mean, right? You don't get paid much in the minors, and you really, you got to really stick with it.
Jack, when I got married, I got married in '82. And I was in AAA then. I've been in AAA for 4 years, and what my salary was? I still have the W-2 from it. 1 year of baseball in AAA, the International League, $4,300.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, how?
I always say my wife married me for my money.
They talked in that book about minor league umpires. They would stay at one hotel because it was cheaper, but then run across the interstate to go to the other hotel to get the free breakfast at the higher price place.
Is that right?
They're offering,
and that back then, the low minors wasn't until AAA that we started getting our own rooms. You had to share. You only have one partner then. Two of you, and so you're working the plate every other day, and we used to have to, get a double and share a hotel room. But
wow,
hey, for me, it was all fun. I loved it, and I was single then, and I made the most of it, and I taught at umpiring school then for 10 years after I went to school, and I was lucky enough to go to instructional league in the fall. And then as I got closer to the big leagues, Puerto Rico, and, for 2 winters. And I had a great time, great life. Again, we started this and I said, I'm very blessed, and I go back to saying that.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, you were number 17 your whole career.
Yep, number
You were
17,
number
just
17.
like the rain delay.
That's funny. Yeah. Was there a reason?
Yeah.
Was that just random, or did you have a reason for picking that number?
When I was in the minor leagues and I went out to Arizona for 2 years for big league spring training, before that, they weren't wearing numbers. And there was an umpire by the name of Ron Luciano that had been assigned number 17, and he had passed away. And so 17, so it was Hirschbeck, I think a guy by the name of Humphrey, and Tim McClellan, who was in the big leagues for years. So they assigned us numbers in order, and mine happened to be 17. So I was assigned that number, and then when I got to the big leagues, I had it, and then just kept it forever.
So I guess it begs the question: why do umpires wear numbers? I mean,
identification.
Is there a reason?
So up in the booth or anywhere in the stadium, you can see them, and then they're usually, I think they're listed in the program. But
Gotcha.
Otherwise, how would you know who the heck guys are? The only people that would be, well, some stadiums put their numbers up on the board, so just for identification.
I see.
Why do they put names on the players, except for the Yankees home jersey?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because if you're a Yankee fan, you better know the number and who they are, correct?
That's right. Absolutely. So tell us what you're doing in retirement, how you spend your time.
Well, I love to hunt, I love to fish, and I really never got to golf while I was umpiring, and that's my favorite thing to do now. I even got a simulator from my man cave last year, and just during the winter, it was a cold winter in Ohio last year, and I used to go out there 6 days a week, and I have a very dear friend who's a great golfer and an even better teacher. And he would come over and work with me, and then whatever he taught me, I'd work on the rest of the week, and just really love it. Love playing golf.
Does it help? Does the simulator help?
It has helped me. Yeah, because I used it. He said to me, he goes, "You've used this thing the way you're supposed to. Like a lot of times someone will get it and go out, hit driver and smash a few shots. I started with like wedges and worked my way up, and and even hitting them different distances, because it's all in the chest rotation and everything, how far you hit it, and knowing like I could take a 58 degree and hit it 30 yards, or I could hit it 60 yards just by the turn, and just tried to learn all those things. So I had a lot of fun. Kept me very busy in the winter.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
We did want you to talk about the Magic of Michael Foundation a little bit, and we want to let our listeners know how they might be able to donate or learn more about it. So can you tell us just a little bit about what that's all about?
Sure. It's magicofmichael.com, and there's even what I really encourage people, yes, you can donate on that page, and there's different pages, but go to the bottom where it says our articles and stories, and read some of those things, and you'll see the pictures and things that we've done in Northeast Ohio. Never turned anyone down. Again, even programs with inner city children, along with, we've done everything from getting dogs for children, companion dogs, to a lot of ramps and things for wheelchairs. We bought wheelchairs. Program we have is called Go Baby Go, where we were up to like 180 cars now after 7 years, and they're the full cars, that you see like kids driving, like battery operated. And each child gets their own car, and these are kids under 5 that most of them have never walked without crutches or wheelchairs or anything, and we get them each their own car, customize it with things the way they like. Like we've had Cleveland Indians logos all over one year. We have Barbie doll, whatever they like, we customize it with. And then the parents get a remote control. So the dad or mom can drive the car for the kids, and of course they get to keep them. We do a Christmas party for families with children with terrible illnesses, and we do it for the parents, we do it for their siblings. just gifts for the whole family. We even bought one grandmother a washing machine one year because she didn't have one. And so we're doing a lot of good in the community. And again, I encourage people, if you're listening to this and you liked any of my stories and stuff, go to the articles, and especially one called "The Umpire's Sons," and you will cry. My wife doesn't realize I'm in here. Can you hear her? I hope not. She's talking on the phone. Hey, Denise, you're not being paid to be on this iPad. I'm not being paid either. I'm just teasing folks. But yeah, so magicofmichael.com, and thank you for bringing that up.
Well, thank you for all you're doing for the community up there, and boy, talking about taking just a tragic situation and making something good come from it. That's really awesome.
Thank you. We try. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you very much, John. We really enjoyed this, and I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure being with you.
Fantastic. Really great to meet you.
Likewise.
Great to meet a fellow umpire.
That's right. Your
I
parents
feel a little left out here. I've never been an umpire. So.
Yeah, but you're
John,
a good attorney. You're a good attorney.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
John, if my parents were alive, you could thank them. That decision in 1974 when they wouldn't let me go to umpire school. I got married in 1982 too. So I'm thinking you may not have made it.
I might not have. Hey.
All right. Hey, thank you very much.
Welcome, guys.
Thanks,
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right, give it up for John Hirschbeck. Come on, give it up for him. Come on. Give it up. Okay, Randy. Settle down. Okay, come on. Hard to control this crowd, John.
I understand.
The whole town's batting about Cincinnati. What a team, what a team, what a team. Each man and lady from 1 to 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.